Hey Wargamers, over the weekend Games Workshop revealed Operation Hivestorm, which is the box that comes out alongside the new edition of Killteam sometime this fall. And of course, it features our much beloved Vespid in a glorious new plastic kit. So today we're going to talk about that new kit specifically and what it might mean for a 40K version of Vespid once the new box launches. All right, so let's cover some of the basics here first. Of course, it's called Hivestorm. It's the new edition of Killteam. We know that. It is Scions versus Vespid. It is Jumpy Boys versus Jumpy Bugs. It's going to be very cool, very fun to play. The release window on this is not that far off, though, right? So late September pre-orders, early October release. That's going to be your window if you want to pick up some of these new models. If you, like me, want to get Vespid as soon as possible, you're going to want to be on this box because it's probably going to be several months after that release until we get the standalone boxes of these different kits. So you're going to be waiting a while to get just the Vespid if that's what you want. So you're better off trying to pair up with somebody, split the box if that's what you're trying to do. Now, as far as the Vespid Killteam goes, it contains 10 new Vespid Stingwings plus a drone, so 11 new models. It's not a new unit. It is still Vespid Stingwings. It's not the thing that we had with the Kroot Farstalker Kinband, for example. That was a big surprise when they came out with that, and it was a brand new unit, not a replacement for Kroot Carnivores. We don't have that situation here. It is just Stingwings. It is the unit that you know and love as far as we can tell. And I think that's really good, right? That we don't have another entry into the Codex. We could just get a replacement for these extremely old kits and are able to actually use those and have a cohesive aesthetic for that unit as opposed to having some of these older units that aren't updated versus this newer kit. So I think that's a really good thing. The sculpts, of course, are amazing. They're dynamically posed. They're highly detailed. They just look fantastic. Pour one out for the Blood Angels players, though, because this is clearly where the wing sculptors spent their time here and with the Sylvaneth over on AOS. Not on the new Sanguinary Guard. So these Vespid look amazing, and the wings, you will notice, are much more insectoid-like. They're not the carapace-based wings that we saw in the old version, right? These things actually look like they could fly at least a little bit, which is very good and very cool. We also see a little bit more emphasis on the third pair of appendages here. So because they're insects, they have 3 sets of limbs. We see that much better represented here by these kind of like little almost vestigial claspers on the midsection of the model. The old ones had this too, but it was just like this weird little, almost looked like a little slug on the side of the model. So I'm glad that they clarified that concept in this sculpt. And otherwise, they just look great, right? Like basically no notes on how awesome these look. And of course, they have the dynamic poses, tactical rocks galore, exactly what I wanted for this model. As far as the unit goes, it contains 5 warriors and a strain leader. All those have neutron blasters. Then we have a version with a flamer, one with a airburst fragmentation projector, and one with a rail rifle. Then we also have a Shadestrain, which is pretty out there. Not something that I was really anticipating at all with this type of release, but we'll get to that in a minute. And then also the Oversight drone, which is really just the link between the Shazwi handlers, which, by the way, did you know that you only have to be the rank of Shazwi in order to be a handler for an entire unit of Vespid? I didn't, but now I do. It's a link between the Shazwi and the Strain Leader. So we'll talk about that in just a moment as well. Okay, so looking at the warriors specifically here, again, fantastic sculpts, dynamic, everything I wanted, no notes. 5 out of 5 would Google again. They look great. So as far as the rules in 40K go, I don't expect major changes, right? I don't think that there's going to be some fundamental changes to their profile or the neutron blaster. I think those are all going to work pretty much the same, if not identically the same. And I'm not expecting like major changes to their ability or anything like that either. So no major changes as far as the profile is concerned. One place where there's going to be some pretty big swings probably is in the unit size, right? This is a Killteam, so it comes with 10 models. The current version of Vespid in 40K has to be 5. So what's the deal? Is it going to be that you can split this into 2 units of 5? Probably not, right? Like Games Workshop really isn't into doing that anymore. So because this kill team has 10 models in it, you're probably going to have a 10-man Vespid unit going forward. You're not going to be able to have the little cheap drop that we have right now. It's going to be a much larger investment. It's also going to be harder to deep strike because you have more models on the board. So that means that they're going to be harder to use and harder to justify. Will it be worth it? We'll have to see. I mean, clearly from an aesthetic standpoint, yes, it's going to be worth it. You get a lot of utility out of Vespid because they are able to, deep strike in. They have pretty decent shooting for a round or two. You do get a lot out of Vespid for what they are, and so they probably will still be worth it, but they're going to be harder to fit into a list and that sort of thing too. So we'll have to see, especially with some of these specialty models that are in this unit, if that changes their utility significantly. That's going to play into that cost benefit analysis. So way too early to say whether they're going to be worth it or not, of course. So stay tuned. As far as the kind of support models for this release, we have the Skyblast and the Swarmguard. These are Vespid that are carrying an airburst fragmentation projector and a flamer respectively. Yeah, they look cool. I think they have a lot of utility in Killteam. Having those specific weapons in this type of environment makes a lot of sense and should play really well. But in 40K, having just one of those weapons probably doesn't have a ton of value, especially in the role that we see Vespid occupying, right? Like they're mostly for objective capture, kind of some deep strike shenanigans, maybe a little bit of high quality anti-infantry shooting, but the AFP and the Flamer don't occupy those roles, right? Those are for getting rid of chaff and that sort of guard equivalent unit more so than the higher quality unit that we see generally targeted with a neutron blaster. So these particular weapons probably don't translate very well into 40K within a Vespid unit, but maybe if they get rules, it's going to be a pick one situation where they say, hey, you have these multiple different special weapon options. You can pick one to upgrade your unit of Vespid with. You don't get all three. As you'll see, there's the rail rifle, right, version coming up next. You don't get all three. You can pick one, either the rail rifle, the AFP, or the flamer for your unit of 10. The other thing that we see here is the Oversight drone. In Killteam, this probably has some leadership mechanic or some influence on what different Vespid are able to target. I saw something on Reddit suggesting that there was a mechanic with these guys where they weren't going to be able to operate totally autonomously unless you had the Oversight drone within range or something like that. So we'll see how that plays out in Killteam. But as far as 40K goes, this probably isn't really going to do anything, right? It's probably not going to be actually a model in the unit or anything like that. If it is in the unit, if it does actually manifest in 40K, my guess would be that it would be something like it's a token, of course, because it's a drone. It's not actually a model, but like maybe you can expend that to like pass a battle shock test, right? Like you can expend your Oversight drone to pass a battle shock test once, that sort of thing. Like that could be a mechanic, or it could just be baked into the strain leader profile, kind of like when you have a higher leadership on the strain leader, and so that's your deal because of the Oversight drone. Not either way, that's fine. That's great, especially if you can discard it to pass a battle shock test. That'd be really useful, especially for a unit like this. But I'm not going to hold my breath for the Oversight drone to do something specifically in 40K, just because of how neglected drones have been in 10th edition. And then finally, we get to what I'm calling kind of the centerpiece models of this unit. That includes the Longsting, which is the rail rifle version. Just an awful name. I really don't like that name at all. And now we know why Longstrike had to die. You couldn't have Longsting and Longstrike, so they all sat down at the boardroom and they said, "Listen, fellas, we got to make a tough call here. Do we want to keep Longstrike, or do we want this new Vespid to be called Longsting?" And then they just they just threw Longstrike out the window and no one said anything. And now we have this guy. Rail rifle on a Vespid, awesome, sweet. Hate the name though. Rail rifle on a Vespid works really well. I think it probably complements the neutron blaster better than the AFP or the flamer. And so if this does end up in a pick one situation, I'm probably going to be going with that. But yeah, I mean, great, cool. The strain leader, right? That's our sergeant model. Looks great. I'm a little sad that we're missing the pointy bug stance. The old strain leader had, like kind of an infinite, I don't know if it's infamous, but I always remember this distinctly about the model, how he's kind of like pointing somewhere. I think that was cool. I like that pose. It's sad that he's not doing that anymore. That would have been a nice, tip of the hat to the old versions of this. Love his helmet though. Makes a whole lot more sense than like kind of the weird circular thing that we had on the old strain leader. This fits much more with the current aesthetic of Tau, so very cool. Then we had the Shadestrain, which is the weirdest model in this release. Looking at the pictures that we've had, I've been very confused about his head, but I think he's not deformed or anything. I think he's just a normal Vespid underneath. It's just the way that his neck looks that makes this look kind of bulbous and weird. But I think he's normal otherwise. So the Shadestrain is the stealth member of the kill team. We can clearly tell that. That's very strongly telegraphed here, based on the name, but also based on his war gear, right? He has, stealth suit or ghost kill inspired equipment all over the place, especially if you look at his chest piece, that's like right off of a ghost kill. So we see all these things being very clearly stealth tech. And so that's probably going to have some pretty obvious implications for how it functions in Killteam, but in 40K, that's less so, right? Like, is it going to be that you can, upgrade one of your Vespid's warriors to be a Shadestrain, and if you do, then the unit gets stealth? That makes sense to me, but it's not going to be, I don't know, who knows, I guess. But that's kind of the most I could expect this thing to do, if anything. It basically has to be a unit ability like that where you get stealth for the unit if you bring it, similar to the Pekra for the Farstalker Kinband, or it has to be cut from the 40K rules, like several of the other members of the Kinband kill team, right? So you have a whole bunch of models in the Kinband kill team that don't have 40K equivalents. They're just Farstalkers, right? And so that might be the case for the Shadestrain too, which would be kind of a bummer because it is such a interesting, bizarre component of the list or of the unit. One other thing I'll note here is that his neutron blaster has some sort of augmentation on it, and I wonder if that gives it an extra shot, kind of like a cyclic ion blaster or something like that, or if it really makes it ion or something like that. Something different, right? Something to make his weapon function a little bit more like a little bit more ion-y instead of neutron-y would be interesting to see. But yeah, these models, again, fantastic. I can't wait to include them in my army. I will probably be looking to split kill team boxes with a couple folks in order to get a couple units of these Vespid because I do like them so much. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments below. What are you looking forward to with Vespid in 40K or in kill team? Either way, pick your poison. But yeah, put it in the comments and let's have a conversation about it. As always, thanks for watching and happy wargaming. If you stuck around to this point in the video, maybe you want to join our Discord community as well. There's a link in the description below. Special thanks to all my supporters over on Patreon, but especially the folks that you see on your screen now. If you want to help make more invasive wargaming videos, consider joining our community over there as well.